The First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by WeatherRate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Yes, Ross Muma running in now because he is checking out what's going on with our radar. He's stealing the clicker from me and everything. You weren't even going to poke your head in and say hi. So we are tracking radar, but as you can see, unfortunately, it looks like something weird's going on with our Jacksonville radar. So thanks to Ross, we have a whole another graphics system ready to go. So Andy, if you wouldn't mind, please moving over to Max. Is it 3
2
on his 2 on his end? Max 2. Ross is saving the day for us.
We'll see about that. Let me take it back here quick. There we go. So we had some sunshine earlier today, but we talked yesterday about the mid and upper level clouds kind of increasing throughout the day, and eventually then those lower clouds that had already brought some isolated rain showers to more of our southern part of the viewing area. So Flagler, St. Johns, Putnam counties. That is now reaching us. So some pretty heavy rainfall moving into the downtown area now, and this is all moving from east to west. A little bit of a different scenario, Lee, than we typically see. Or
I guess coming out of spring
recently.
with the fronts, yeah.
Yes, we've had a lot of fronts, and even some of the sea breeze convergence areas. You know, those storms might ignite off to our west, and then they gradually move back east. This is a little bit of a different scenario compared to what we have seen as of late, at least.
Yeah, it does kind of. This is all like right now a non-tropical low down in South Florida, kind of getting that moisture plume coming up over us. So this is what we're seeing now. We'll see it more and more often in these summertime months. It is now June. It is now meteorological summer. So we will be watching these storms come off the coast and then, unfortunately, just push right inland, right across all of the First Coast.
And this is going to be a recurring theme, not only tonight, but tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, even into Thursday, although the wind direction and the storm movement might change by Thursday and perhaps even into Friday. But we have a multi-day rain event on the way here. Now, let me take it back real quick. So if you looked, downtown Jacksonville getting a pretty nice thunderstorm, some heavy rainfall. Other areas just to the south of St. Augustine, another cell coming onshore, but really a lot of the activity is out west, and this is an area that the National Weather Service had highlighted earlier today for an increase in some thunderstorm activity. So really Union and Bradford counties down towards the Gainesville area, out towards the south sides of Lake City and Fort White, Lake Butler even. That's where a lot of the heavy storms are, and this just passed through an area to the south of there. So if you can take the lower third down quick, Andy, only because the warnings are down there to the south. So is that Marion County, south of Gainesville?
Yep, so you're hitting a little bit of Alachua, Putnam, and yes, Marion County, absolutely. Look at you.
Hey. So yeah, a couple flood advisories put out for those folks, just thanks to some of the heavy rainfall moving on in. But we take a broader look at the entire system there. South Florida got inundated with heavy rain yesterday. They have more rain on the way today, so we'll have to watch for potential flooding concerns down across the southern third of the peninsula. But that has now made its way up towards us, and this is really all from a very broad area of low pressure. It's not, the clearest picture that we can often look at, where you can see where the exact center is. The surface winds are circulating around that. That's not really what we have here. We may eventually get to that point by Thursday and Friday as the system actually moves offshore of us, but you can kind of see where the overall spin is currently at for the time being. So all that moisture still off to our south. That is still going to be headed up our way here over about the next 36 to 48 hours, Lee.
Yeah, so the National Hurricane Center has been putting its center of that system kind of right off the coast of like Fort Lauderdale now.
Okay.
It's so hard to see though, as you mentioned. Yeah, you can see right there. So South Florida, you got it off the coast of this entire system though. I think the best way to describe it is just it's messy, and it's going to stay messy and rainy tomorrow and Thursday as well. We don't expect this to organize. Really, the National Hurricane Center is saying it, maybe it's possible, but it's a very low chance for it to organize. We just expect, whether it does develop or not, rounds of rain, off and on showers and thunderstorms. And Ross, that's going to lead to the potential for flooding. I think tomorrow it's more of a coastal flooding concern at times of high tide. But then by Thursday, I'm concerned about localized flooding in those low-lying areas because we have rain right now. And then, as you mentioned, just off and on, really now through Thursday night. So some of those places like San Marco that really start to flood after rounds of rain, I think Thursday would be more of a localized flooding concern.
Yeah, especially when you get some of those showers and thunderstorms training over the same locations.
Yeah.
Could lend to that flooding threat. I want to go back a little bit. Do you remember I think it was June. I think it was last June. We had another similar setup kind of like this where we had a low that moved just offshore and they did a very similar thing that they did put out.
Yes,
I think that did get up to like a 40% medium chance of formation, but it was just offshore from us.
And it really, so we were talking about that this morning, Robert and I in Talking Tropics, we were reflecting on that, and it really actually looked very close to tropical depression status. It just missed it in the end because it stayed offshore, because it started organizing over these warm waters. So that's why I think the National Hurricane Center has highlighted it again, because there's a chance. It's just a very low chance. It depends where the center is. If it stays over water, it stays over warmer water. That's fuel for these systems. If it starts to move over land and over Florida, you'll start to see it struggle to organize. So it's just something that we're watching. But I think the main point, again, Ross, is if it develops, it's going to be off our coast, but it's going to be moving away from us. So I do think no matter what, our impacts are the same, whether it gets the tropical depression classification or not.
And the National Hurricane Center has said that it's really just expected to take on some characteristics of a tropical system. So something to continue to watch, but as Lee mentioned, I think it's a really, really good point. Our impact's still going to be the same whether that continues to develop or not. Nothing is going to change in our forecast here locally. So we've already kind of talked about this. The waves of heavy rainfall on the way throughout the day tomorrow. Because of that, we not only have a weather impact alert in effect for the entirety of your Wednesday, but that's actually going to extend into Thursday as well. There's going to be kind of a trailing line of showers and thunderstorms that continues to bring us some rain chances here through Thursday afternoon and evening as well. So impact, perfectly summed up there, waves of rainfall and storms. And this is pretty much your rain chances throughout the day tomorrow. I did try to kind of change it a little bit so it wasn't just 80 or 90%.
Following those waves in,
Yeah.
Good job.
So we anticipate a pretty nice wave to move in at least for the morning commute or through the morning hours. But I do expect a lull at least at some point within the day. With these, bands or waves of rain moving onshore, it's sometimes hard to really nail down the exact timing. So just know it's not going to be like steady rain all day long. There will be some pockets of some dry time, but when the rain and thunderstorms do roll in, they certainly could be heavy.
And you had a good graphic that showed how we think the heaviest rain, the most amount of rain would fall closer to the coast you are, because these will be coming off the coast on Wednesday. And something I do want to mention too, Ross, and I don't know if you have a graphic about it later on, so sorry if I'm skipping ahead. But okay, this mentions it, so perfect. So these storms that come onshore on Wednesday, they do have the potential to form water spouts when they're offshore, or they hit land and that friction causes them to start spinning, and they can drop something called a land spout or a very brief, weak tornado, mainly in our coastal areas. So on top of the flooding that we had talked about tomorrow, coastal flooding, the main concern, but also maybe a little bit of localized flooding, as those storms come onshore, as we talked about how they are moving from the Atlantic onshore, they could potentially spin right along the coast. So for our beaches areas, we'll have to watch out for that tornado threat. And also at the beaches, of course, rough surf, rip currents, and the windiest conditions, Ross.
Yeah. Well, I was going to add to that, you mentioned the land spouts. A lot of these thunderstorms, their wind gusts cautioned or warned within them are pretty much about 35 to 45 miles per hour. So the overall wind field is a little bit lesser than what we have seen in some of the other, severe thunderstorms that we've had as of late. So because of that, although you can still get that rotation that Lee mentioned, that's why they'll often say it's more of a land spout rather than a tornado, just because the winds themselves really aren't that strong. So maybe I'm just talking through it like as wishful thinking, that we don't get any tornadoes, and at the very worst, we just get a couple land spouts that move on shore there. But yeah, something to watch, especially along the coastlines, as like Lee said.
And then I think on Thursday, at least where it would be, say, a water spout trying to come on shore, that's not as much of a concern on Thursday because the rain is then going to switch. We're going to get moisture out of the Gulf on Thursday. So it's going to be moving
Yep, right
more
here.
from the west and the southwest to the east. So there you go. As you can see, it's not today we have rain coming on shore, same story tomorrow, but it looks different on Thursday as that system starts to drift away to the northeast, away from us.
And yeah, you can see that wind direction change there as well. And this is another way to depict it. If you've been outside at all here today, not only has it looked stormy and the rain has moved in, but it's been a pretty breezy afternoon. This morning wasn't too bad, but especially by lunchtime and then now up until 10 after 4, we've had wind gusts upwards of about 30 miles per hour across many locations. So that will continue through at least the next 3 to 4 hours. Overnight, winds will taper off at least a little bit, especially for our inland locations. But then by tomorrow, that broad area of low pressure begins to move a little bit closer. Coastal areas and just offshore are going to be very windy. So we can still see gusts 25 to 30 miles per hour for a lot of those locations. St. Simons Island, Brunswick, some good spots. And then there you notice as you transition from Wednesday to Thursday, wind direction changes. Still, though, expecting some breezy conditions. I've got it kind of locked in at about 10 to 15 miles per hour sustained winds on Thursday. This might be a little overdone, Lee. You can say if you disagree.
No, I do agree with you. I think today and especially tomorrow, the breezier the days compared to Thursday.
Yeah. But just know, perhaps still a little bit breezy through Thursday and even into Friday as the system moves offshore. This is kind of another way to look at it here, Lee. So perhaps not nearly as close to the first coast to see exactly when those showers and storms are going to move in, but gives you a broader sense of what's happening. So it does look like the low kind of looks to develop once it reaches us or shortly thereafter as it begins to move away. And you can kind of just see the broad area of circulation the whole way around
there you
that.
go. Yeah, and that's why I feel like if it really was to develop, if it does, it would be more off the coast of South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. And then the trailing, I'm calling it a boundary. It is a wake trough. It's really just an elongated area of some lower pressure there. It's really just acting as a boundary or forcing mechanism for storms to try to form along and around. Mm-hmm. And the tail end of it is going to pretty much stick with us through Thursday and potentially even into the first half of Friday as well. Models are depicting it fairly well right where that kind of lingering boundary is. So although our rain chances and thunderstorm chances will decrease as we head into Friday, still will be something that we're going to be talking about here at least over the next couple of days.
Yeah, and that would be the concern where, Friday, the rain chances aren't overwhelming unless there are areas that already have such saturated ground that even a small shower at that point can cause that water to start to collect again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Rainfall totals potentially getting up towards around 3 inches. I even saw the National Weather Service highlighting some areas up to 4 inches. Possible. As you said, it just depends where we have that training, where the storms form over and over those same places.
Yeah, so a lot of, beneficial rain for most folks, but as, you mentioned, some locally higher amounts could lend to some flooding concerns. So that'll be something we will also have to be, just mindful of and watch closely here over the next couple of days. Friday, Lee and I have both said a little bit drier. I wrote down in my notes earlier, it looks like if we do see storms besides where we had seen it kind of along that boundary earlier, I'm kind of pinning it closer to the coastline.
I like it.
And I-95, you get a little bit of a southwest breeze. So even if that, sea breeze tries to work its way in a little bit, I expect any thunderstorm activity to mainly be up and down the coastal areas and I-95. Otherwise, once we get kind of through this week, the big story, I think, is going to be a change in the pattern a little bit. Really, well, I guess I've only lived here a year and a half, so you can say if I'm wrong, but much more of a Florida-like summer,
yeah,
a tropical-like pattern, so to speak.
I think you're so. Yeah, as we enter the weekend, it's more of that typical, what we would call a typical summer weekend over summer, but the difference is it would be more typical for July, August.
Yeah.
It is still early June, and I love that here on that graphic you still have the average high is 89. So while a lot of, when we talk about it's hotter than normal, this is, it's really hot, it's really humid, and people are saying yeah, we're in Florida or we're in Southeast Georgia. We're used to it. You're right. It's not unexpected as we head into summer. We're just letting you guys know normally we shouldn't be suffering this early already. We usually can wait until July and August when it's 95 degrees and it's humid as well. And we have those pop-up showers and storms. It is just happening a bit earlier. We had the hottest May on record. Now we're getting into above average, warmer than normal temperatures over the weekend. At least we've had this break, Ross. I don't like all the weather that's happening outside right now. It's crazy. It's gross outside, not good beach weather, but 82 degrees feels pretty nice right now.
No, I'll take it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you can see there too the humidity just starting to really ramp up. It will be feeling tropical tomorrow. With all that moisture out there right now, all those thunderstorms that just erupted across the first coast. That tropical moisture, it is here now.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you think about not only the heat, but then all the rain that we're going to get over the next couple of days. So that's a lot of just moisture on the ground.
Steam.
Yes,
literally steam.
Exactly.
Like a bag of shrimp.
Steam. Even standing water in some locations, mosquito weather, mosquito breeding grounds, so to speak. Something that I sometimes think about there. But then also, then you just factor in the humidity itself still in the low to mid 70s. So you factor that in on top of our air temperatures that Lee broke it down for us. Real feels this weekend, and really anywhere from about 100 to 106, 107, especially on Saturday, looks to be our peak heat index and real feel temperature. So I think Lee summed it up perfectly. Some very steamy weather here by the weekend. And even into next week, yeah. So get ready to sweat if you're planning on spending any extended time outdoors here. Other key thing with regards to, a pretty typical like summer setup, for mid-July, daily afternoon showers and thunderstorms. You have all that extra heat, you have all that extra humidity and moisture available. That sea breeze comes on in, and really thanks to a predominantly southwesterly flow through most of the weekend and into early next week, a lot of those thunderstorm chances are probably going to be right over I-95 where the vast majority of us live. So could have many more, weather impact days potentially on the way next week.
Yeah, I think if you have weekend plans and then outdoor plans coming up, if you're trying to head out, going to the beach there, obviously you saw that picture today, not a good beach day. We're not saying you can't get outside over the weekend. If you do want to go to the beach, of a more typical setup as we head over the weekend, usually what we say is just the earlier you can get out, the better. We usually have more thunderstorm development in the afternoon and the evening, and as Ross said, we'll have to watch it for the potential of weather impact alerts, really just watching to see how much moisture we have out there, if we have the ingredients in the atmosphere that create more of those more thunderstorm activity. So you can see here on the 7-day, we're not saying it's an absolute washout over the weekend, but those rain chances are on the higher side. So we're going to watch it. And if you can move plans earlier, Ross, if you disagree, please jump on in. But I looked like, at least when I was looking this morning, it was more of those afternoon and evening thunderstorms out there.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think if you can get your plans in before, let's say, 2 o'clock for both Saturday and Sunday afternoon, you should be okay. If you have plans in the middle of the afternoon or early evening, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, you got dinner plans outdoors somewhere, maybe grilling out or, having...
The jumbo shrimp?
Yeah, the jumbo shrimp.
What do you think about tonight? Think they're going to play?
Depends, I think, on two things. One, do we continue to still see rain move in, from offshore right over the downtown area? Looks like it is a possibility, but maybe not as heavy as we've seen over the past hour or so. Other thing is, how wet and saturated is the ground over there now at this point?
Yes.
I know they have a tarp to put over the infield, but the outfield is going to be pretty soggy out there. So,
and that's what concerns me, because I'm assuming if they play today, they have games also stacked up for tomorrow and Thursday and Friday, and
they could have a lot of issues here over the next 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, and tonight you're supposed to bring your dogs to the park. It would have been a fantastic game. I hope some dogs get out there and still have some fun, but I hope, those dogs that does Enzo, your dog, does he have a little raincoat? I love little raincoat and little booties that dogs have.
No,
he's
the dog who will...
He's rugged.
Yeah, he'll run right into the mud puddle or
he'd have a great time
around
at the game tonight.
He probably would, although he's afraid of thunder. So if there's any thunder, he would be scared. But the rain itself, he loves it. He loves it.
Well, yeah, just unfortunately for any sort of those outdoor activities over the next several days. And And for your pups who are afraid of thunder, Wednesday and Thursday we'll have to watch that too. So I think,
Yeah.
Ross, the takeaway for our weather impact alerts, Wednesday and Thursday are a little different. We have issued them for both days because widespread showers and thunderstorms. No, it's not going to rain on your head every single minute, every single hour. It comes in waves. Ross showed you that how he broke it down to where we'll likely have a lull at some point tomorrow too, but just off and on waves of rain and storms. Now, for severe impacts, they differ a little bit. Wednesday, yes, I do think there could be some low-lying areas that start to collect water because of all the rain we're getting right now. But also tomorrow at times of high tide, we'll have to watch out for coastal flooding, especially in southeast Georgia, Brunswick, St. Simon's Island, St. Mary's. But everyone at times of high tide tomorrow, look out for any sort of elevated high tides. And then tomorrow, too, we'll watch out for any sort of potential land spout, water spout coming onshore with those storms tomorrow. Then on Thursday, the concern turns more to a flooding risk of fresh water with all the rain that we have seen from today, tomorrow, and then again into Thursday. I think we'll have a more collection of water, so those low-lying areas, Ross, more of a concern for localized flooding on Thursday.
Yeah, I think you wrapped it up there perfectly. Before we do go, Andy, can you pop back the beach cam quick? Because if you zoom in real close, if you squint your eyes and you look over towards the pier, I'm pretty sure you can see former chief meteorologist Tim Deegan with his surfboard about to just crash into the waves over there. Yeah.
But this is only for the experts, folks, because we do have that rip current risk increasing. So only the expert surfers are allowed out there right now.
No, I'm sure Tim has already gotten his surfing in for the day. But anytime we get a nice...
I was like literally leaning forward trying to see.
No, he's probably in the middle of a siesta right now. Either that or he's sitting out on the back porch watching the rain and thunderstorms now roll on in.
I hope he's making his guacamole and having a great time.
And well-deserved guacamole for him, too. But yeah, so that's pretty much all we've got here this evening, or I guess this afternoon. We're going to continue to watch the storms move on shore here tonight, monitor that potential severe weather risk if it happens to develop at all, especially with those water spouts, land spouts, and isolated tornado potential that Lee broke down. So other than that, flooding concern for some of the coastal areas here over the next several days. And a pretty rainy outlook, at least through the end of the week, Lee.
Yep, we'll be here watching it all day tomorrow, all day Thursday, so stay tuned.